Good morning, Blair. Good morning, Beth. Good to see you. Be
Good
okay.
morning. Good morning. So sad to not be with you in person, but I did multiple tests and I think, yes, Bishop Craig tested positive after that big event.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Blair.
Yes, but anyway, wonderful to see you and so grateful for Zoom.
Right. These are the blessings that the pandemic gave us, is the ability to be hybrid. And
Yes.
as long as you can hear us, Blair, that's good. I'm not sure do you need to share your screen at any point?
I do. I have a PowerPoint.
Okay, great. Let me just make sure that I make you the co-host.
And Craig, I'm so glad you took Tech 202 in seminary, because can you believe this? Nothing with lighting, sound, tech, and here we are. We are producers.
I hope seminaries are teaching priestly tech 101 and 201 because
I hope so. I hope so too. I hope so too. Is Sarah Dull okay?
Sarah also sadly is out sick, Blair. With COVID, but recovering and some respiratory challenges. So we hope that Sarah will be back on Tuesday.
Okay.
So yeah, we're just adapting as best we can this morning.
Absolutely. She and her team were so marvelous. And I thought, wow, she is you have all the rock stars over there. But
Wow.
she emailed me from the hospital and I said, please, you don't need to do this.
That sounds like
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad, Blair, that you can be with us virtually. We're just waiting for people to gather. I wonder, Blair, if you want to just test whether you can share your screen, because for some reason I can't get to the host.
That would be great. Let me try to do that. Okay, here we go.
Want to be sure that, okay, great. Yeah, that works.
There we go. Okay.
Let me just make sure that we can see your PowerPoint.
Okay, let me just, here we go. Here's the first slide. Does that look all right?
I'm just seeing a white screen there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. It says I'm screen sharing, but let's. Do you want me to, let me get out of that again. Did you make me co-host, Craig? I didn't see any sign saying you are now co-host.
That's the thing is, I think this is on Sarah's account, and so I don't have permissions to give you co-host ability, but maybe try sharing your screen one more time there to be sure.
Sure, and if not, one idea, okay, let's do that. Should I, does that work?
We're seeing a white screen.
Okay.
We're just working now on host function.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I bet because it's Sarah's account. Is there a chance, I guess for people, I was gonna say I could send you and I could send you a link, but then people who are zooming in like Beth
wouldn't see it. Yeah, let me just quickly call Chris out next because I think he has the password for the host account.
Yeah, I mean, I've used them from time to time because that's what's other people are using, but it's mostly in response to others. Oh, okay. You know, a lot of other.
Hey, Chris, I'm so sorry. I actually do need that. I do need that login and password because I need to make Blair the host so that she can share her screen. And so it requires us to do a sign in. Do you have that sign in for Sarah's account? Okay, thanks. Bye.
Does Chris have it?
Yeah, he's coming.
Okay, I was gonna say, I can get a hold of Sarah.
So when Blair's sharing, we're just seeing.
Hi, Jared,
Hey Blair, good to see you.
sorry to make everybody's stress level go through the roof today.
No, no worries, you're fine.
You take this if I take one phone.
Yes,
Is everything okay in Sanctuary?
everything is fine. The Celebrate Chalice got used at 8, so we, just made sure to go, that was good, right? Yeah, we used it.
I'll go check in on that.
I do need to go grab my phone, because I don't have that on me.
But I'll be here.
Do you mind just 2 more minutes?
Yeah.
Greg, in a worst case scenario, a lot of things are on the handout, so I will work with that. If for some reason this doesn't come through, but
Great. Judy's just going to grab the handout now,
okay.
so we can hand those to people in person. Do you have that handout, Judy?
It's in there.
Oh. Okay.
Did you have a nice?
I did, yes. Thank you, Cindy, so much. Good to be with family again.
There's nothing like.
How are you, Heather?
I'm good. I went to the trip too.
Oh, where did you go?
Me, my aunt, my niece and my daughter went to Ashley, North Dakota, which is my mom, my grandparents, my aunt and my dad's hometown.
Wonderful.
We haven't been there since 2002
Okay.
and they were having Oktoberfest, so it was kind of perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
Was.
Welcome back.
Where did you go?
New Jersey.
New Jersey?
My brother and his wife and children live there. My parents live close by, about 15 minutes away from them. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it was good to see everyone again.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, she'll be on the screen because she tested positive right away, but she's not feeling bad, so just knowing you're referring to a screen when you do your exam. All right, you want a lectern or are you okay to do it without a lectern? I'm fine, just standing. Okay. Craig, I am here.
Chris is here with the login.
Okay.
So just me.
Great, I can do that.
All right, I'll hit you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, so my thing is that my grandparents are from Ashley.
Tape a copy. Right.
So
Maybe I'll just leave this.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh, good, the printouts did make it in your thing. Come in, one and all, get a cup of coffee, make yourselves comfortable.
And Jared, I should end this about 9:45, is that correct? To give people
Yeah,
time?
somewhere right around there, although.
Okay,
since you've got
perfect.
Space, you are welcome to go over, because
Okay.
I'll just step out then, but, you're welcome
Okay.
to. If you want to.
Perfect, thank you.
Let's try this here, don't go anywhere. Participants. Blair Pogue and make co-host. Yes. All right, Blair, you should be co-host. Why don't we see
Oh,
if you can share your
fantastic.
screen?
Let me try that. Can you,
We can see it.
hooray, hooray, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Perfect.
We just saw a white screen, but was there a slide attached to that?
Were you able to see the screen when I projected?
I saw a white screen from you, but I didn't see words on the screen.
Okay, let's try again. Here we go.
Now, it may require you.
Okay, can you see that? It says you are screen sharing.
You are, but it's white, but all we see is a white screen. So we
Ooh,
don't see any words from your slides. You have to select the screen that you want to share.
The bar there.
So
You should have,
what do I need to do? And Jared, worst case scenario, I can work with a handout, but
it's a few things. One, you're pretty familiar with screen share function on Zoom,
yes,
yeah?
very, very familiar. I'm doing all the
Sometimes
steps.
with the television, sometimes the screen thing that you want to share, you have to physically slide it off your screen to the right. And it comes onto the TV screen. It may be treating you like just try that. Let's.
Okay,
it's a-
so I'm hitting share screen, correct? Whiteboard, and then I'm pulling. Oh, does this work?
I can see a white screen. Is there words supposed to be on it?
Yes, there is a slide with color. And Jared, what did you mean when you said, bring it to the side?
Sometimes you can select a window that you're using on your screen, like grab it and move it to another screen if you were using two monitors. And this could be, our TV could be the second monitor. I'm wondering if that's it.
Okay, I have not done that before. Let me try to.
As Blair, I do see your cursor moving around on our screen.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yep,
you're sharing the whiteboard. If you have when you go to share screen, there should be another option to share the slide that you want to show.
Yeah, you might need to press play like it's a PowerPoint or something. Is there like play or view or?
let's try this. Okay, does that work?
No.
Okay,
Stop share, then when you go to the share screen, there should be multiple screens that you can share.
yes. Okay, let me try that. There are two screens. Let me try the second one. And again, if all else fails, is this,
That we can see. We can see your browser. And we
but you
can see all
cannot see
work.
the PowerPoint.
see the tabs. Yep.
And we see all your tabs.
Okay, let me try one more time. Does that work?
Yeah, yes, that works.
Yes,
Good.
okay, okay.
right.
I think what I'm gonna do, because this is keep it up, just so we don't, that's okay with you. I'm gonna keep it up just because it was so hard to get it up.
No,
Thank-
that's great. Okay, I'm gonna do a quick intro and then you'll be on, Dan. Let's see here. All right, good morning. Welcome to the 9 o'clock forum hour. And as all things in a COVID, post-COVID, currently COVID apparently era, we are still dealing with the joys of technology. And actually, by the grace of technology, we're delighted to have our guest speaker here this morning. And I won't introduce her because I know Dan from our stewardship committee will be doing introductions this morning. But Blair, thank you for being here. Even though all those of you who were at the ordinations yesterday were sadly exposed, I'm really grateful that you were able to persevere and join us this morning. As you know, we're in a season of stewardship. We'll have our first witness at 10 a.m. this morning. We heard it also at 8, and it will go live for 3 weeks. And our stewardship committee have been planning and preparing for not only those things like the pledge cards and the goal amounts and the messages about money, but to think in here about why this is a spiritual practice. And so I'm really grateful that our forums will draw us deeply into the work of stewardship. Dan, why don't you go ahead and welcome our speaker?
Well, yes, welcome. The Reverend Dr. Blair Pogue is Canon for Vitality and Innovation for our diocese. It's a new position that was created in January 2022. Blair provides direct support to congregations of all sizes and contexts as they continue to cultivate vitality, discover new expressions of church, and develop new ways of engaging our neighbors with good news of Jesus. She has an extensive visitation schedule, traveling the whole diocese as she preaches, teaches, and walks alongside congregations as she develops local and regional leaders who can further advance the work of vitality and innovation in every corner of Minnesota. Blair previously served as rector of St. Matthew's in St. Paul for 16 years. Before that, she served in both rural and suburban contexts, and as the background makes her a very good fit for our diverse diocese. She has written extensively in the areas of vitality and innovation during her ministry. She has served as a coach in the missional leadership cohort from Episcopal clergy at Luther Seminary. She is widely recognized and consulted as a leader in areas of vitality and innovation all over our church and ecumenically. Most importantly, she brings a deep and daily commitment to abiding in the person of Jesus and a passion for reaching those outside of the church walls. Blair has said, "I look forward to help lay and ordained people in the Episcopal Church of Minnesota live more deeply into the network of shared learning and experimentation. My focus will be on deep listening, raising up and training regional leaders, facilitators, and coaches, and supporting grassroots networks so they can function as learning communities. I am also excited about sharing spiritual practices to help people connect more deeply with God and their neighbors. And we have such a great guest speaker to kick off our 3 Sundays of stewardship. So welcome, Blair.
Well, Dan, thank you so much. And when I think about vitality, I think about your congregation. The Bishop and I talk a lot about what's going on at your church and what we have to learn from you. So I'm really disappointed to not be there in person today, and hope that I can be with you in person sometime soon. I'm excited to have this time with you. I know it's going to go fast, and I hope that even with me zooming into your meeting, that we can make this as interactive as possible. For me, stewardship is part of the spiritual practice of generosity, which is one of the core practices for followers of the way of Jesus. We're going to look at that today, and I want to engage with you in a couple of spiritual practices around stewardship and generosity, and then have some conversation and some give and take as best we can do that on Zoom. I'd like to start with dwelling in Luke, but before I do that, why don't we just start with a prayer? Loving and gracious God, we give thanks for the gift of life, the gift of community, the gift of your presence, and the gift of the possibility of participating in your life in every possible way through the practice of generosity. May our time together be thought-provoking and helpful, and may we listen for what you have to say to us today through our conversation together. In your name we pray. Amen. So what I'm going to ask is, I'm going to ask one of you to read this passage from Luke 12, and then, and Reverend Jared, would you help me just identify somebody in the room who could do that? And then what I'm going to have you do is pair up with somebody else in the room and take a couple of minutes to share the words, phrases, or images that capture your imagination, and perhaps a question or two that this passage raises for you. And I'll let you know when a couple minutes have passed and it's time to change the person to the other person and make sure everybody has a chance to share. And then I'm going to invite you to come back and share one thing you heard your partner say. So we're both listening to scripture and we're also listening to one another. So would someone be willing to read this passage, and it's on your handout?
Holly, can I call on you and put you on the spot to be a reader? Sure. Thank you.
And he said to them, "Take care, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." Then he told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly. And he thought to himself, "What should I do? For I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God."
Thank you so much. So I invite you to pair up with somebody else. And ideally, if there's somebody you don't know in that room or don't know well, I encourage you to pair with them, introduce yourself, and then again, share the words, phrases, or images that capture your imagination and any questions this passage raises for you. And so each person will have about 3-4 minutes to share. And then we'll come back and you'll each have the chance to share one thing you heard your partners say.
Blair and Juanita, I'm putting you in a breakout room so that the two of you can talk to each
Oh,
other.
wonderful. Thank you so much. And Reverend Jared, would you tell people when it's about 4 minutes that it's time to change partners? Thank you.
3 or 4 minutes. Okay. They're good. Oh, sorry.
And if you wanted to read some reviews of it, you just take it.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And your name is Juanita?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And this is Nico, my prayer partner.
Hello, Nico. Isn't it nice to be able to zoom in at home and be with Nico?
Yes, it is. It really is.
Well, good to meet you. And I wonder if, were you in at the beginning when, oh no, okay.
I just dropped in about not even a minute before you ended before the reading ended.
Okay, let me give you 1 minute to read this passage. Can you see it on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, I want to give you 1 minute to read it, and then I'm going to ask you to share whatever words, phrase, or images captured your imagination, or any questions this passage raises for you.
It's always the twist on, you think you have enough, you think you have more than enough, and you can kind of coast for a while, and then poof, it's gone. You're gone. And the thing is, there is no way. Okay, so I've thought about this some. There's no way to store up riches with God. It has to be renewed frequently, if not daily or more often even. But I mean, there's no way to store it up. I know I need the renewal of morning prayer. I need morning prayer for St. John's. We have a Facebook ministry of morning prayer on Facebook. And if I don't do morning prayer, like I didn't this morning, but then I'm going to Eucharist. So, but if I don't do morning prayer, my day isn't right. So
I love what you said, that you can't store up those riches with God. It's a daily time of being filled.
And there are some experiences that stay with me. That have, but they're, unless I bring them to my conscious memory, there's no storing up the riches anyway. And yet when I do take the time, there is a depth to the relationship.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, there's so much in this passage to unpack, but I think I'll just speak for myself. There's just such a desire to feel secure, whatever that, and a lot of times that money is something very concrete, and yet I've seen so many people with a lot of money who still feel like maybe this isn't enough. So it just raises this question of what's enough and where does our security ultimately lie? Whatever happens to us in this life, I mean, we don't know.
Mhm.
But I love what you said, and I was thinking, I went back to grad school about 10 years ago. And we studied a lot of Trinitarian theology, and a lot of it was from the Eastern Orthodox Church. And it really spoke to me because the whole understanding of our life as followers of Jesus was to participate more fully in God's life every day. I had just been taught the imitation of Christ model,
Mhm.
and I kept failing because I'm not Jesus. And I kept seeing how I fell short in trying to imitate. But I love that idea of the things, the practices, the times with people, the acts of generosity that we receive or participate in, those moments where we experience God's life more fully. And so kind of what you said made me think about that, the day, being filled and participating in God's life in community through things like morning prayer. But I'm just thinking about all the people in Israel and Gaza. And I mean, there's so much poverty in Gaza and all these, and I was thinking about my son has a music festival. He's 20 at his school every year. And 1 minute they're all dancing and celebrating. And the next minute the missiles are firing in and, I only saw a little bit of the footage, but it was just so hard. It's just so heartbreaking for everybody.
He's in Israel right now?
No, no.
1 minute?
Oh, thank you. But I just thought of him because he
When I read this.
concert he looks forward to every year. But anyway, well, this was really rich. But thank you so much.
You're
Good to
welcome.
meet you.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
If you have to ask
If I'm back
questions, what
here.
do you say? Her question was like, what is, what do I do?
Are we back, Juanita, in the room with everybody?
Yes, we
Okay,
are.
good. It worked. It worked. So, wonderful. Well, everybody, we'll just come back. I had a lovely time with getting to know Juanita and hearing her thoughts, which are just profound. But I
Folks,
want,
we're coming back. Our speaker is a little bit quiet, but we can hear Blair and Juanita have just exited their wonderful chat. And
okay,
so should we? Sorry, we're back. You have our attention, Blair. Thank you for that.
thank you. And would you like me to speak a little bit louder, Reverend
No,
Jerry?
I had the speaker turned down, so we
Oh.
allowed you the privacy to be able to speak to each other. So you're fine now.
I am in awe of how you're using this technology today. So it
Please
definitely.
don't be in awe, just be surprised.
So I wonder if you could help me in that room. Would you be willing to share, anybody in the room, one thing you heard your partner say during that time of dwelling in scripture?
Let's just go table by table. We'll start here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I heard Bill saying was he was talking about the power of capitalism, but that it's gone bad. It's not doing, it's a powerful tool, but any tool is, if you take a hammer and you drive the nail and drive the nail and drive the nail or drive the screw, it's a powerful tool, but it's part of a toolbox.
Yes.
Well, that hit me from the word greed that Marx talks about driving capitalism. But Dan was talking about how ridiculous of this, the man in the lesson building newer barns when he already had barns, and that there's just a total preoccupation with material things above anything else in his life.
Thank you. Powerful. Others.
Anyone else at that table want to say something or no? Okay, we'll go to the next table.
My friend Roger here, was focused initially on the very first line, which is all kinds of greed, noting that it's not just one kind of greed. I don't know how else to say it other than, wow, that's an observation. And then contrasting that, the rest of that sentence with life. The difference between the idea of greed and the idea of life. And the multiplicity that both of those two words bring to mind.
And incompatibility.
And the incompatibility, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Holly, focused on this man's use of the word soul. So he was speaking to his soul. And she said, that's not who my soul is. I don't, it's me. It informs me of reflective and spiritual things. I don't talk to it about what I do with goods. And I added the comment that if you think of Jesus using this in a Hebraic sense of soul, it's saying the man knows that he's dust in the breath of God, and he's still ignoring that and not listening.
Thank you. Sure. Linda or Lynn?
My partner was David and he had to step out, but what he spoke about was his relationship with his departed wife and how both of them were raised in a spirit of tithing from their earliest years. And that this was something they did together, and planning what to give to the church was something they did together, which will not come as a surprise to those of us who have gotten to know them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I speak for myself?
Yeah,
too?
absolutely, yes. You are allowed.
If I might, what caught me right away was this word greed. And I thought, when I think of greed, I think of evil greed that hurts other people. But then I was thinking, well, what if we're comfortable and we have saved and we do give, but can there be greed in that as well? And so we talked about that too.
Thank you. This table.
So I have a report. He has no report for me, but I do.
You do? Okay. One thing she does. Okay, so one thing she Christine focused on was the word about being to be rich towards God. She was wondering what that meant, that in our culture we assume it's money, but that she thought that that rich towards God means much, much more than that. And like, how is it that God wants to have a relationship with you?
Powerful.
Thank you.
We kind of went back and forth on that, both Heather and I, and so it's not just giving toward God with what you have materially, but the relationship, and really what comes out of the relationship is manifested in the giving, and that we kind of focus on giving as money, and that's certainly a part of it, but there's more to it. And then I also got a real juxtaposition, Holly, and what you were discussing, that he spoke to his soul, but he answered with things for his body.
Wow.
Well done, thank you.
I'll let Betsy talk for a couple.
Well, Liz had mentioned that there may be an element of fear for why people, keep things and possess things and, hoard. And I just really like put my lid when I heard that, because suddenly I started thinking about why do people do this?
Mm,
And what are the implications behind it? Because I wasn't raised that way, so I have a very hard time understanding the concept. So I thought that was a really interesting thing.
Very good. Others at the table?
Liz and.
No.
Or your cousin,
Jan and Chris, anything you want to add?
We're peas in a pod, we decided.
That's right.
You want me to go?
Yes.
Go ahead. So the same thing sort of popped out, the whose will they be, the first sentence. Holly and Roger addressed, but also the whose will they be, who are you thinking about anyway, and what direction are you going in? But we're both, of an age and have like interests, and the thing that, Chris said that really interested me, because we have grandchildren, thinking about what are we gonna do for Christmas and stuff. I don't wanna give my kids stuff anymore. And I think about who am I thinking about anyway? Am I thinking about me or them or, but Chris's comment that her son and daughter-in-law, we have talked a lot about it, and, it's more important for them to give their children experiences rather than stuff. And I really want to explore that with my own children.
Yeah, it's still hard for me as thinking about Christmas comes up now. And it's, yes, experiences are fine and I'll gladly give money for that. Cause most of the experiences they want to do are I'm not capable of it. But, it's fun also to watch them on Christmas morning and, you know, opening the presents. So, it's a little bit of a tussle. It seems like a silly one. I should get over the bridge on that. But, we also talked about the fact that we both like, clothing and, and even though I have, what do you call it? Made my goods or my clothes smaller because I've moved to smaller and smaller apartments. I still like a good sale.
You can't afford not to buy the thing.
So what caught Jared, was the eat, drink and be merry. Because.
And relax.
And relax, oh, sorry, yeah, relax, eat, drink and be merry. And he was like, that was a pinch for him because he's like, yeah, that is actually pretty much my goal.
It's my life ambition.
And so to think about how this helps him take an extra look at that, about whether the accumulation of stuff is just for that goal or whether their stuff has a use.
Yeah. And Judy named a couple different things, but one of which was this question of why tear down the barns and like the building of this space. Just the idea that sorry, my brain is going fuzzy. Judy?
Oh, yeah, just the accumulation of whatever, kind of going off of some other folks' things, that it can be greed, not just for money or stuff, but hoarding your time, your energy, your attention. And then what are you saving that for? And how do you get past the idea of being a pot to being a conduit?
Yeah, you talked about a particular moment in life that really prompted that sort of showed you the opportunity was a choice between those two things.
If you go deep enough, really what we're talking about is the personal definition of life.
Thank you, Lyle. Well, that's all of us that wanted to speak, Blair.
Thank
Back
you.
to you.
Well, thank you. Juanita, anything you want to share? So Juanita said a lot of profound things, but one thing that really, really captured my imagination was her saying that in her relationship with God, she doesn't feel like she can store up things, that she needs to be fed daily. And so your morning prayer service that you do every day really fills her. And we talked about the whole notion of participating in God's life. I mentioned that when I first became a Christian, I didn't grow up going to church. I was only taught the Thomas à Kempis imitation of Christ model. And I kept feeling discouraged because I'm not Jesus. And I kept falling short. But I went back to grad school about 10 years ago because I just really didn't understand the Trinity, even after going to divinity school. Now I really do fully. I'm just joking. I'm continuing to strive, learning more about our God as Trinitarian. But one thing I loved when I studied Eastern Orthodox theology is they have this whole notion of participating in God's life. And when we are generous, or others are generous to us, or in so many moments in life, in worship, in having coffee or beer with a dear friend and a deep conversation, we have these experiences of participating in God's life more fully. And to me, generosity, the practice of generosity, is one of those that helps me experience that practice. Well, thank you. I love dwelling in scripture because I really loved hearing what so many of you noticed and saw and wrestled with. A lot of good questions. I'm aware of the time, so I think I'm going to go back to this exercise if we have time, but I encourage you to take some time to do it if we don't get to it today. And it is a time of just taking a few minutes of silence and thinking about if you were suddenly reduced to dire poverty, and I hope that never happens, but thinking about what possessions or lifestyle would be hardest to preserve. What's most important to you? And some of you may have been in that position where you have had to make some hard choices about your priorities. And then if you inherited a fabulous fortune, what would you do with that newfound wealth? So again, another opportunity to think about priorities and values. And I wonder as well, if you were God, what might you have to say to yourself in each of these situations? Struggling financially and having to wrestle with what's most important, or having the opposite issue of inheriting money and thinking, how do I invest this? How am I called to share this wealth with others and to spend it? And I think that's a really, really helpful exercise. So sometimes at St. Matthew's over the years, we had a way of Jesus consisting of 8 spiritual practices that my community discerned were very important to the Christian life, either practices that were already important to us or practices that we didn't engage in, but we felt were very important to the Christian life. And we spent a lot of time going deeply into those practices. And one is generosity. And a lot of times I would have people share, and maybe you've done that at St. John's, stories of a time they experienced generosity, or that they were able to be generous to someone else. And those stories are so powerful that people told over the years, either being recipients of generosity or having the opportunity, the gift to be generous toward others or toward things that they believe in, to support their faith community, to support organizations that truly represent their values and what they feel called to invest in. And I think these experiences give us a taste of God's generosity. I think we want to give to those we love. My son is 20 years old. He's a junior in college. And every month I send him a care package. He loves decorations. When he was little, he was always getting mad that I didn't decorate the house enough. He wanted to have decorations for every season. And so I put together a package with decorations for every season and of course food. And I do this as a way for him to just say, I love you every month. And he loves getting packages. So I just want you to take a moment of silence to think about ways that you have experienced giving or receiving as an expression of generosity in your own life. And also, what does this giving and receiving look like in your relationship with God? Let's just take a moment of silence to think about those questions which are on your handout. And maybe you want to jot a few notes on your handout. Could I ask one or two people to share what this giving and receiving, this expression of love and generosity looks like for you in your relationship with God? How do you feel that you're receiving this generosity from God in your life, and how are you participating in it yourself? Just some easy, superficial questions this morning. Anybody willing to share?
I don't mind going, Blair.
Please.
I was thinking, my wife and I talk a lot about money narratives in our family. As you know, she works in stewardship, and so this is a common conversation, how the ways we were raised to think about what our worth and what money means to us shape our theology. And I bump into that a lot in ministry. And I was struck as you asked this question about a memory of my father's death, which happened while I was just about to graduate from seminary. And everything in grief becomes a blur. You don't really pay attention to the details. So it was later, years later, going back and looking at pictures of things that happened at that time and remembering the ways people took care of us. So a bishop who paid for my father's cremation fees and flew me out to be with my family so that I didn't have to pay out of pocket, or classmates who threw a wedding, a baby shower for our soon to be born eldest. And the generosity of that, and just like the many gifts. And it was only years later that I was able to experience, sort of in retrospect, what generosity felt like. And I think that's the other part of it, is that our experiences are all tangled up in generosity and worth and all of those things, with all the other experiences of life, whether it's grief or joy. And that was what came to me as I was thinking about this.
Thank you so much for that. That's really incredible. In the midst of the grief, the acts of generosity that meant so much, that gave you a sense of God's love and presence, God working through others.
Absolutely, yeah.
I appreciate that. Anybody else have an experience of either participating in God's generosity or receiving it in some way?
Yeah, go ahead.
I had an experience that represents love through a gift that I received from my youngest daughter and her 4 children and her husband during COVID. It was just strikingly painful to be separated and not to be with them. FaceTime didn't do anything for me, and I received a gift of a mug that had the state of Minnesota on it, and the state and marked where they were in Massachusetts, and it said, "You're far away, but you're always in our heart." And Phil said to me, "Why do you keep that mug on your table?" I said, because I love it, and I just hold it close to me.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Those gestures, those words mean so much. And again, give us a taste of God's generosity. Here are just a couple of definitions of stewardship. As Jared said, Aaron is a nationwide, well known in this area. But I like these definitions, and I think about the fact, and I forget this all the time, that everything we are and have is a gift from God. For me, waking up this morning, the gift of another day, the gift of a roof over my head, of food, of every breath I take, everything I have is not mine. It's been given to me to steward. And so that, if I think of everything through that lens, even those things I hold dearest, my relationship with my husband and my son, my car, my finances, I'm here to serve as an overseer for God and to appreciate lovingly for all the people and things entrusted to my care. I love the rule of Saint Benedict. I think it's a really healthy rule of life. Benedict instructed his monks to regard all utensils as if they are the sacred vessels of the altar. I love that. You look at everything as a gift from God. You look at everything that you have very differently, as well as all the relationships in your life. I really like environmental theologian Sally McFaig. She was at Vanderbilt for many years. I actually met her when I was a new Episcopalian worshiping at St. Anne's, Nashville. I didn't know who she was, and she was sitting next to me and doing the forum. She, in one of her books, invites us to view the earth as God's body. Now, if you're into theology, that would be called pantheism. We know that God is so much bigger than anything like the earth. And yet I found it really helpful to think about the earth as God's body. So do I want to put pesticides on God's body? Do I want to dump forever chemicals in the waterways on God's body? And if the earth is God's body, do I want to participate in things that continue to destroy coral reefs and animal populations and make sea levels rise? So I wonder, I just want you to take a few seconds to think about the question that is on your handout, which follows this section. How might we behave differently if we fully understood that everything we are and have is a gift from God? I want to think everything's mine, but what if we fully understood what I believe is the truth, even though I don't always live it, that everything we are and have is a gift from God? So stewardship isn't about money, although stewarding the financial resources God has given us is important. And I think stewardship is using everything God has given us in grateful and appropriate ways. But I think for a lot of us, and Jared alluded to this earlier, I think our money stories are important. And I believe that Sarah had told me that you did some work around your money stories at St. John's, or at least she had done some work there. But I think it's important to be in touch with our own money story. We each have one. And most of us grew up in a household where there was a paradigm of scarcity or abundance that had no relationship to the amount of money, the amount of resources that our family had. Over the years, I've heard stories from people in my churches where they lived, their family, there was a sense that there was enough. And then later they found out that their father or mother was continually unemployed, but they never felt that in the household. They never felt that fear or anxiety. They felt that there was enough. And then there are people who grew up with a lot of wealth, but there was always a sense of scarcity and there's a need for more. And again, that can not relate to the actual truth. With my own money story, it's interesting. My parents are both afraid of money. I'm actually managing their finances for them right now. They're 91 and 86. But my mom's father went bankrupt and refused to declare bankruptcy. Ethically, he thought that was wrong. And so she watched everything be taken out of her house. And so she's paralyzed by the fear of that happening again, which I can understand. So my parents are fine financially, but my mom lives with that. And my dad's parents lived through the Depression. And for a while, even when my grandfather was going to Harvard Law School, they lived out of their car. Remember my grandmother saying she had one dress when she went to college. And when I went up into their basement, I could not believe what they had up there, but it was so just traumatic to go through the Depression that fear was always with them. I think that money fear separates us from God. It just gets in the way and we feel scared and we want security, and that is completely understandable. But again, it interferes with us understanding that everything we are and have is a gift from God. And I think when we know that we belong to God, how profoundly God loves us, and that everything we are and have is God's, we want to give back as a way of saying thank you to God. And I would call that worship. I think I'm just going to go a few more minutes, if that's okay, and then allow you time to get some coffee and get ready for the next service. But I think it's really important to, when we're looking at stewardship, to think about our giving to God as a spiritual practice. When I started going to church as a graduate student, I had no idea. I had no understanding of stewardship. And I think I put $2 to $5 in the plate every week. I never thought about how the church was funded or how salaries were paid. I'm embarrassed to say that. But later, when I got married, my husband and I, we felt that it was very important to give, that stewardship, generosity is part of the Christian life. So we set a financial goal together, and then we agreed that every year we were going to increase the percentage of our income that we were giving. And what I noticed, and I don't know if this is true of any of you, but I felt more and more connected to the organizations and people that I gave to. In fact, at St. Matt's, I was always running around turning off the lights because we were tithing a large amount of our income there, and I just felt even more invested in the place, and I believed in what God was calling us to do there, and I wanted every penny to go to participate in God's mission for our church. Well, Jesus says, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. I found that to be very true. And I think it's easy in stewardship. I know St. Matt's, when I got there, they kept saying the stewardship campaign was always about what you get for your money. And while I think it's important to educate people about what it costs to keep something like a faith community going, I felt that it was critically important for the people of St. Matthew's to understand stewardship as a spiritual practice that grows us closer to God. And I don't know about you, but for me, money can be one of the last hurdles in my relationship with God. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I can let go of a lot of other things, but money is something, for some reason, and some understandable reasons, that it makes me feel more secure to have that money. And so I really have to work on that practice of generosity and really prayerfully think about what I and my husband feel called to give. And I think when that giving comes from a place of gratitude, that is important and healthy. And I'll just end today by saying that in the very end of your handout, there is a gratitude practice. And I think the more we can center ourselves in gratitude, the more we can participate in God's generosity in our life and the more able we are to receive it. So there's a practice there, and I hope that you try that at home. I find that this practice helps me center myself and come and do whatever that day from a place of gratitude. We are at about 9 minutes till. You have been very generous with your time. I know Zoom is not ideal, but thank you so much for your engagement, and hope that someday I will be with you in person and can experience the vitality that is at St. John, St. Paul.
Thank you so much, Claire. Jared had to go and prepare for service, but thank you so much for generously sharing of your time, Blair, and your expertise and your wisdom, and just blessings on your work in and throughout the diocese. And we also very much look forward to having you with us in person sometime, and blessings that your whatever COVID exposure does not hit you hard.
Thank you so much, Judy. And thanks for all that you're doing there and this amazing series that you're doing on these spiritual practices leading to vitality. I look forward to learning from all of you. So blessings, everybody. Thanks for your flexibility, and hope to see you all in person sometime soon.
Peace.
Peace.
Thanks, everyone.